Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a video that's been long overdue as well. And because we're forced to stay home, I have actually been able to catch up on so many things. You have no idea. So that is one of the positive things that I have been able to gain from quarantine time. All right, so let's get started. I wanted to let you know how it is that I rotate my makeup. So a lot of my videos are first impressions videos because it'll be the first time I'm actually trying that palette, doing a look. And the reason I do that is because these are palettes that either have just come out and I want to demo them for you so that you can, make your own decision as to whether or not you want to buy it or not. And other palettes are palettes that I've had in my collection that I really just want to do a look on and that you can still purchase, that are probably permanent palettes or permanent lipsticks or permanent blushes from a certain brand that they offer all year round. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is one of the things I go through the most is lipstick and eyeshadow palettes. And if you haven't watched my makeup collection video, please do so that you understand exactly how much eyeshadow palettes and lipsticks I actually have. So the way that I do it is I choose a palette. Right now, I'm using the Tom Ford Pretty Baby palette. Now I did a look on this palette not too long ago, and okay, let me back it up. I did a look on this palette, and once I did the look on this palette, I had an eyeshadow primer from Bareminerals that I needed to use because it was quite old in my collection and I didn't want it to go bad. So the only problem with that primer is the primer is a lilac color. And so I said to myself, well, how am I going to use this lilac primer with what? And so I started to look through my eyeshadow palettes and I was like, oh, it's gonna go perfect with the Pretty Baby eyeshadow palette that I have from Tom Ford. And so as you can see, I'm almost about to reach pan on these two colors right here. I use this shadow as a topper. So that eyeshadow primer was what determined the use of this palette. This palette is fairly new, and so I tend to go in order from oldest to newest, but sometimes palettes jump the order. And what I mean by that is that either I had this primer that I needed to use, and so I had to use this palette because I don't have any other lilac-y based palettes in my collection, or the second reason would be that I go in order. So if I just bought a palette, I'm gonna do a first impressions on that palette, but I have another palette in my makeup bag that I'm continuously using, and I usually start from oldest to newest. So in my makeup video, you guys know that I have a lot of palettes from Bareminerals that I haven't used, and those are gonna be the first in my rotation, and I plan to use all of those before 2020. So that's how I do it. I kind of have a memory bank in my brain where I know what's old and what's new and what I need to start using. I use that same method when it comes to my foundations. So right now I have committed to using Vitalumiere Aqua. And following Vitalumiere Aqua, I have the Chanel Attempt foundation that if you guys saw yesterday's video, you would have seen that I'm like more than halfway done with that foundation. And once I'm done with that foundation, I'm gonna start using all of my Bare Mineral foundations. Now, My Bareminerals foundations, I tend to hoard a little bit more than my more expensive foundations, because those foundations I use to film. So a lot of the videos that I do first impressions on, I don't keep that makeup on throughout the day. I actually shower, take off that makeup, and then I will go and redo my makeup with the original palette that I am currently using. I know, crazy, but not really. So what happens is that a lot of the times if I'm doing a first impressions video, that palette is either not perfect for that season, or is not quite what I'm looking for that time, if that makes sense. So if I'm already committed to using a palette, then that's what I'm gonna use until I reach pan on all the colors, and then I throw that away and I move on to my next palette. As the reason I use the same method with my foundations is because it keeps me organized, in the sense of I know exactly when I need to start looking out for sales to replenish my foundations. So for example, I had run out of the Velvet foundation, and this foundation I'm more than halfway done with it. So I took advantage of the Bloomingdale's sale that was just going on, and I replenished these foundations because I truly like it, and that's not a sale that comes around often. So that's the reason I use the same method with my foundations. Now, my Bareminerals foundations I use every day, but I also use them to film because they're not as expensive as the Chanel foundations, so it doesn't hurt my bank as much when I have to repurchase them. Also, I tend to only purchase their holiday deluxe versions because you get more for your money. They're a giant like pot of their original foundation, which is what I tend to use the most. The same method I also use for bronzers, blushes, and highlighters. Now, highlighters, blushes, and bronzers is not something that I have a huge collection of. I have a couple of palettes here and there, but because I use it the most. And so I really go through it a lot. And so right now I'm using a sample size of the Sun Bunny from TooFaced, and that's what I'm wearing today in this video. And so it was time for me to use this bronzer because I had it in my collection for a while. So I had run out. I had run out of the Chocolate Soleil bronzer, and so this was the second one in line. Now, as far as blush and highlight is concerned, the Chanel highlight I was using in the month of January, some of March, and December, I actually put away because it's a Chanel highlighter that I can't get anymore. And I really only like to use that highlight for the holidays, like the winter time. I find it to be just perfect. It's the perfect sparkle on your cheekbones. Now, the face palette that I'm currently using for blush and highlight at the moment is the Hourglass Edit palette. Let me see, is that the right name? Ambient Unlocked Palette. Light Edit Unlocked Palette. That's a really long name. So this came out last year. These are all brand new shades. You have 2 blushes, a bronzer, a highlighter, and like finishing powders. So I went ahead and I purchased this because number one, I had never used any of Hourglass's, blushes or highlights, and I've heard wonderful things about it. But also too, I thought this is a palette that I'm gonna get a lot of use out of and will last me quite a long time. So right now I'm using this blush with this highlight right here. So far I really like it, but I will not pick up another blush or another highlight until I'm completely done with this palette. And That's how I keep a nice healthy rotation of my makeup, and I'm able to use everything. Now, I understand that I have palettes that are more than a year old. Now, my method, which is not something that I'm recommending for anyone who is watching this video. This is just my life, my personal experience, and how I choose to use my makeup, okay? So take everything that I say with a grain of salt. If my lipsticks smell bad, I will toss it. If they don't, everything is fair game. So if I pull out a palette that I know is more than a year old and I take a whiff and it smells bad, or when I use it, it's actually dried out, I will toss it. That has only happened once in the entire time I have been using makeup, which has been more than 10 years, basically. I've only had to throw away one eyeshadow palette, and it was a Makeup Forever eyeshadow palette. And I've only had to toss one lipstick, and I can't remember if it was a Clinique one or I don't know what brand it was, but I remember tossing it because it smelled funny. And so I just got rid of it. However, it's always worked out for me. I've never gotten a reaction. I've never gotten like pink eye. I've never gotten some weird infection. My skin has never had some like weird reaction to it. So it's never been a problem for me. Again, I'm not recommending you do this. So do not blame me if you get some sort of like pink eye from using an expired eyeshadow palette, okay? Because I'm not recommending this for you. I'm just telling you how I do it, because I get this question all the time. If you have all this makeup, how is it possible to be able to use it? So I don't get PR. I pay for all of my stuff, and I am not gonna throw away money, so I'm gonna use what I have. And I also put a lot of thought into the kind of palettes that I buy. I don't tend to buy palettes with really bright colors or really deep shaded palettes, because I have a lighter skin tone and it's not something I can wear every day. So for example, the McGrath Bronze Seduction palette, this I'm gonna do a video on with a look, but this is not a palette that I find myself being able to wear every day. There's only like 2 shades in here that I can use to create like an everyday look. Otherwise, these colors are really bright. They are very intense, and so I can only use this for like a party, and I don't attend many parties. So what's gonna happen during quarantine is I'm just gonna walk around my house with some crazy sultry eye that only I can, you know, appreciate. Why? Because I love makeup and I love playing with makeup. So would I be purchasing another McGrath palette? Probably not. The Rose Seduction one, I think I'm gonna buy at some point if it comes to Sephora. If it doesn't come to Sephora, I'm not buying it. Just because I saw Amy Bliss White do a review on it and use the colors, and it works on her, and her skin is a shade lighter than mine. So if Amy can make it work, I can make it work, and it's just a more wearable palette. The Bronze Seduction palette, honestly, that red, you guys know that anything with a nice red shade in, I'm a sucker for. We all have weaknesses. And so a good nude palette is my weakness. A good nude lipstick is my weakness. All those lipsticks that you saw in my makeup collection, 80% of them are nude colors. I'm lying, like 90% of them are nude colors. Are shades that when I pick one out, I know I can wear every single day. I apply my lipstick about average 4 to 5 times a day. Why? I hate the way my lips feel when I'm constantly drinking water. So I'm a person that drinks a lot of water. What happens is when you're wearing lipstick and you're constantly drinking, your lipstick tends to wear off a lot quicker than someone who doesn't. And so I hate having that patchy look on my lips, that like powdered, I really can't stand it. I don't like the way it feels, and I don't like the way that it looks. So at that point, I would just reapply my lipstick. I also have big lips, so there's a lot of surface area I have to cover. So therefore, it's not hard for me to go through a tube of lipstick in a week or a week and a half. And I know right now you're sitting in your chair, you're like, what? How is it even? It's possible, trust me, it is possible. I know, but I'm okay with it because I have an entire stash. So my lipsticks are something that for me truly never get old. But the number one thing that never goes old in my makeup collection are my foundations, whether it's Bareminerals or Chanel. I use more foundation. And let me correct myself. It's not that I use it more. It's that, first of all, technically, you use foundation to apply all over your face, which is a big surface area that you have to cover. Secondly, I don't purchase foundation as much as I do other makeup products like eyeshadow palettes, lipstick, lip glosses, stuff like that. So that's why it's not something that is in abundance in my collection. That's pretty much it, guys. This is the method I use to rotate my makeup. I open that drawer, I look at my palettes, and I'm like, okay, you I've had for a little bit. I'm gonna pick you out. Also, I take into account like the season. So if I have more like a warm palette with a lot of warm tones, you know, browns, oranges, I'm not gonna pull that palette out in the middle of the summer, you know? I'm going to choose another palette that's equally as old that has more of neutral colors. So that's why I only purchase eyeshadow palettes that I know I can wear every day, because for me it makes no sense to buy a palette I'm never gonna use, like that McGRATH palette that I've probably used maybe 5 times. I probably used that 5 times, and it was $125. I didn't pay $125 for it. I actually got it during a Black Friday sale, and I only ended up paying like 80 bucks for it. So yeah, which is the only way I will buy the Rose Seduction palette. With my Chanel palettes, I usually only buy my Chanel makeup during a friends and family sale at Bloomingdale's, or with gift cards that I have accumulated from purchases that I've had to make, replenishing certain things, or maybe there are a pair of shoes that I really wanted to buy and I ended up getting multiple $25 gift cards. That's how I purchase my makeup, because I also have to be smart with the way that I am buying things, because I'm purchasing them myself, and I am a middle class individual. I work very hard for my money, so I want to get the most for my money. But yeah, that pretty much completes this video. This is exactly how I rotate my makeup, and I'm gonna stop rambling. Leave me your comments down below if you kind of have a similar method of using your makeup. I would really like to know. And right now it's like raining really hard over here and it's really dark, so I'm gonna apologize if my light looks kind of artificial. I did have to turn on my little ring light. That's why you don't see it behind me. It's usually behind me, behind my head when I'm filming if I'm not using it. But I needed some light in here because it was gonna be very dark and very gloomy. But I wanted to get this video up because I feel like weeks and weeks go by and it's questions I get all the time, and I never get the chance to sit down and film this video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful. Oh, one more thing I did want to say is if you wanted to know, typically a 4 eyeshadow pan quad will last me a month. I wear makeup every single day. That means 7 days a week. And I'm also not delicate with my eyeshadow palettes. And what I mean by that is I wake up very early in the morning, and makeup is like having my cup of coffee. And so what I do is I really dig the brush into the eyeshadow, and I do grab a lot of eyeshadow and I will tap it off in my sink because that's where I do my eyeshadow in my bathroom. And the reason I do that is because in the morning I don't have time to use a little bit and build it. That whole building of eyeshadow for base, for crease, for you know, like that whole building of shades, I don't have time for that in the morning. And so I just want to go in once with my brush and get that smooth, even application the first time. So I do use a lot more shadow than when I sit down and I have to film a video with you guys, because number one, that palette that I'm using, I don't know how pigmented it is, and I'm not in a rush, so I can build that intensity to what I want. In the morning, number one, I'm super sleepy and I'm not fully awake, so mistakes happen, but I can't be sitting there, and I don't have 2 hours to do my makeup in the morning. I've got half an hour to work with, and I gotta make the most of what I have, and that half an hour has to include washing my face and prepping my face, prepping my skin before going in with my makeup. So yeah, that pretty much completes this video. Although I've said that already 2 times. Y sigo hablando. Y sigo, I keep on talking after I say, okay, that completes this video. But I'm serious now. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great weekend. Bye.